We have on this channel been talking a lot lately about the whole Sony versus Canon thing, as I've been on a recent journey trying to figure out what my real estate photography system for stills and for video is going to be going forward. Those of you who've been around for a while know that I'm a Sony shooter. I've been a Sony shooter for many years. However, I've been buying Canon bodies lately, already having had a lot of RF lenses because I like shooting motion on Komodo, on the Red Komodo as well. And I've just been giving it a go between the Sonys and the Canons. One of the things that I often point out that Sony has that is very, very advantageous over any of the Canon bodies or any other camera out there is the ability of the Alpha 1 to go up to 1/400th of a second for the maximum mechanical shutter flash sync speed with a wireless strobe before you have to go to HSS and it sucks power and all that. And how that is advantageous to be able to balance a strobe with window light. I've said that a lot of times on this channel, and I think a lot of people get it, but I think a lot of people don't. Well, I know a lot of people don't because I've been getting questions on, what do you mean? How does that work? And so just a couple days ago, I was out shooting a house and it was vacant and staged, and I took the opportunity just to pop out to the van. I got a GoPro, put it on my chest, and I went ahead and shot what is a 1/400th of a second flash sync shot. So let's roll the intro, then we'll get right into the GoPro footage, and then we will come back afterwards. I will show you the final image, and I have a few more thoughts on just that whole workflow. So here we go. Okay, I've been speaking a lot lately about the Alpha 1 and how it has a 1/400th of a second mechanical flash sync speed and how that is very advantageous for shooting interiors over even other flagship cameras. So the Canon and the Nikon only go up to 1/250th. And I've had some questions of people not really understanding why that's advantageous and wanting me to show the technique, so I'll do it. I'm here shooting this home. Today is vacant and staged, which means it's a good one that I can take some time and show you this on. So let's get into it. So I have the Alpha 1 here, and let's see, my focus is about where I want it. I am at f8. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ambient bracket, so I'm shooting flash ambient composites. I'm going to start out really bright right here, and then I am going to go down one stop, and I am going to go down one stop again. Now what I'm looking for when I'm doing this is this transition right here between the very bright window light and the windowsill. I want to make sure this doesn't bloom a lot, so the light isn't coming and blooming over the windowsill, because that's going to make my compositing with my flash layer easier to do in the future. So, okay, so I have those three shots. Let me show you. One stop apiece, each one of them that I'm going to use for my ambient. Either one of those, or I'll, composite them and then do flash on top of that to true up colors and stuff. So now I want to do my flash shot. So first thing I'm going to do, right, is I am going to get my window exposure where I want it to be. And to do that, I'm going to increase my shutter speed. Yeah, let's say I want it to be right there. Okay, 1/80th. Now I will turn my flash trigger on. Okay, and I am using the Godox AD200 Pro. It's a 200 watt second light. I love it. And now what's going to happen here, okay, is this light is not a powerful enough light. This is a pretty big room, and it's not a powerful enough light, even though the room is white, to really illuminate a lot of the room. So my window is going to be a good exposure, but the rest of the room, this isn't going to be the dominant light source that I want it to be. So then when I'm compositing later, I know that this is a approximately 5800 Kelvin or so temperature, I can get rid of color cast and everything because this is the dominant light source, right? I'm not going to have the yellow cast on the ceiling from that ceiling fan light. I'm not going to have green cast coming in through the windows. So let me go ahead and shoot this real quick. And what this is going to show you is that the windows are going to be the exposure we want, okay? But you see, I don't have good exposure on everything. This isn't a good enough exposure. See, I can still see yellow cast here, but my window is where I want it to be. Okay, so what am I going to do? Well, the only thing that I can do to make my light more powerful is to increase my ISO value. So I'm at 100, so I'll go up 2 stops to 200. Let's go up 3 stops to 400. Let's maybe go up all the way to 640. Maybe we'll go up all the way to 800, okay? Now, this is gonna make my light much, much more powerful. But what it's also going to do is make my window a lot brighter also. So I'll go ahead and take a shot with my strobe right here. Light's gonna get a lot more powerful than it was before. You'll see, kind of overdid it there. Let's go down to 500. We'll take one right there, okay? There we go. So light's much more powerful. Now I have my strobe is the dominant light source in this photograph. So I can take this and I can get rid of the color cast now pretty effectively, okay? But you'll also see that my windows are way too bright. So this is where this comes in. This is where I'm going to increase my shutter speed to get my windows. Okay, so that's not bad. And that's about this is the maximum that a Canon camera is going to give you. Bump up my ISO a little bit more because I still saw some yellow on there. This is about what a Canon camera or a Nikon camera is going to get you. It's 1/250th, okay? So we'll take this shot. Now, with this shot, my interior exposure, my exterior exposure should be getting a little bit more balance, and you'll see that it is. My window is a little bit darker now, a little bit more where I want it. Still too bright though, right? And now my light, my strobe is the dominant light source in the room, so I can effectively use that to control color casts when I'm editing, but this is still too bright. This is where the Alpha 1 comes in, okay? The Alpha 1 can go all the way up to 1/400th of a second on the shutter, right? So what this is gonna do is it's gonna control my window light. My strobe stays exactly the same. I'm at f8 and I'm at ISO 640. Those are the two values that are gonna make this 200 watt second strobe a more powerful light. So that exposure is gonna stay exactly the same, but my windows are gonna get darker. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay, now, I don't know how good this is translating over the GoPro, right? But let's take a look at this shadow right here in the window from the roof over here. This is the old shot, right? So this is the new shot. See, it's a little bit darker. Now the exposure is exactly the same for the strobe. But now, see this greenery right there outside the window, and now it's a little bit darker. That's where the Alpha 1 is advantageous. So you say, well, how often do you do this? You know, is this a big deal? And, you know, I find myself doing it more often than you would think. I really do. So I do this very often. I go all the way up to 1/400th to get a shot. So anyway, I hope I explained that well. I tried to do it quickly, but thoroughly enough that you understand when you're shooting interiors why a camera like the Alpha 1 is advantageous over really every other camera out there, except for some medium format ones with leaf shutter systems. But even then, the A1 is so fast, you know, and you see how fast, you know, everything works just with the app and everything. The range is really good. It's really the best camera for this particular thing at this time. That might change in the future, but for right now, the A1 is the business. All right, so I hope that was clear as mud. It was something that, like I said, I was just out working, and I know that people were a bit confused as to what I was talking about with the 1/400th and how that can be advantageous. shooting real estate. So here's the final image. And, you know, as we look at it together, I want to point out a couple things. One thing in particular is I want to point out is that when you're out there shooting and you're on site, you always want to be shooting for the edit, okay? And you'll notice when I was there demonstrating the technique, I was demonstrating specific things that I'm going to use later. So, you know, I want this, the transition between the outside window light and the top of the windowsill, that's where it's going to bloom because that's where the sky is right there. So you're going to have that bluish kind of haze coming over that edge right there, which if you're not careful is going to make compositing that clear window view to the inside exposure quite difficult later. So you want to think about that when you're shooting for the edit. The other thing was, you know, I'd said a couple times that I want the strobe to be the dominant light source in the room. And that is because the strobe is a very known value, right? I know what the temperature of that light is. And so I can then use that light to remove color casts and to true up colors in the room. So, full disclaimer, you know, those of you who have been around the channel for a while know that I outsource the majority of my stills editing these days, and this was an outsourced image. You know, this whole job was outsourced to my editor, and this is the image that that they gave back to me. I usually make like a final pass on those images too, just to give it some tweaks and make it look consistent to what my style is. But I did all my own editing for the past, you know, for the first couple years rather, and all my own compositing and stuff. So, you know, I sometimes come across people who are looking to get into real estate photography and they want to just jump into using an editor right away. And I typically discourage that because, okay, for me, it makes a lot of sense just in, from a value perspective, what my time is worth versus what I can pay an Asian editor to edit my composites, and therefore that allows me to use my time to go shoot more jobs, right? Plus, it takes a lot of editing off my chest, and I hate editing late at night. So, you know, once I was able to justify doing that, I did it. But I digress. My point is, you know, when you do your own editing, whether it be for a month or a year or 10 years, and then you go ahead and outsource it after that, you're still shooting for the edit because now you understand firsthand the types of things that you want your editor to have to be able to give yourself a good image. And the more consistent you can make that, and so if I have a consistent value that I like, you know, my windows to be, as far as luminance goes, you know, how bright they are, and I have a consistent value of you know, what I want the interior shadows, you know, the gradients, how they fall off. You know, if I do all that consistently on site, and those are the images that I'm always giving these specific layers to my editor, I'm going to have consistency also in return. And so that's a big thing too with editing. Is this is going way off track here, sorry. You know, I could just talk about this stuff for hours, right? But, you know, to finish my point, you know, that's a big thing. People talk about the consistency of editors not being all that great. I would turn around and say, is the consistency of what you're giving the editors, is that an issue? Because I think a lot of people don't think so much about that. So anyway, I hope this helped explain why the 1/400th of a second flash sync speed with the Alpha 1 is a huge benefit, actually, for shooting real estate. So let me know what you think down below. Hope you got something from this. Please like and subscribe if you did get anything from it, and I'll see you soon.